Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. Welcome to Reviews Without Remorse, and we are the Sons of Mexico. I am Joe, and Mexico is my beat, and I'm walking it. With me is my partner David, a true Mexican, not a Mexicant. This is episode number 64, and in this episode, Avengers Infinity War is still kicking names and taking ass at the box office. Is Joe already regretting scoring this one an 8? We'll talk about it. And Marvel is still not finished for 2018. The new Ant-Man and Wasp trailer promises big things. Let's talk about it. And the much-anticipated Cobra Kai got me to part with $9.99 for YouTube Red. Did it live up to the expectations? I'll throw in a roundhouse kick of commentary. Then finally, we finish out the Mariachi trilogy with the Once Upon a Time in Mexico. What's up, amigo?
In a long time, this is like the first episode where you calling me amigo is quite appropriate.
There you go.
Not to mention, the giggles I get out of the fact that we're finally covering the movie that gave us our theme song.
Groot, put that thing away. Now, I don't want to tell you again. Groot.
Hey, Groot.
Whoa, language!
So, are we having some score regrets, sir?
Oh boy, did I hear about it from this one, boy. I think no sooner did my brother, and it was funny, my brother said he was chomping at the bit for this podcast. I sent it to him as soon as I posted it. He was like, oh my God, I've been hitting refresh every 15 minutes. About an hour later, I get a text. He goes, first of all, name one scene in Ultron that was better than any scene in this movie. He's like, are you out of your mind? He just went off. He was like, you are just nuts. And I was like, oh, all right. Well, I got to see it again. So, yeah, here we go. I went back last week and watched it again. I saw it in a much less crowded theater, and I actually took a good buddy of mine from high school, my friend Walt, who I haven't seen in ages, and it was funny because he doesn't even really watch, like he hasn't really seen any of the Marvel movies. So It was kind of funny. It was fun seeing it with him, and I was kind of like nervous. I was like, oh no, do I have to explain who's this and what's that and why this and why that? But I was like, should I give you like a refresher? I was like, no, I know. I remember the comics or something or other, the cartoons. He's like, oh, I'll get it. And sure enough, he absolutely adored it. He thought it was spectacular. He loved it. And again, he hadn't seen anything leading up to this. So, okay. Having seen it again, I enjoyed it 1,000 times better. One of the things I don't think I mentioned in the review was that we got there. We weren't late by any stretch, but again, we were on a tremendous line. We ended up sitting in the very front row on the far right side. And again, I got nieces and nephews crawling all around. So, hardly the viewing experience that you would want. This time, again, got there nice and early, perfect seat, and just got to sit and watch it for what it is. And I absolutely positively adored it. And again, it was funny because as we were talking, as we did our reviews, I said plainly, I know I'm gonna come back and want to rate this higher. And it was weird. It's like, well, why don't I just come out and say it's a 9 or a 10 or whatever? And again, I'm trying to just stay with my gut feeling at the time, and this was sort of where I was, and I hadn't gotten it all. It hadn't sunk in the way I wanted it to. Having seen it again, easily a 9, possibly a 10, 9.5 maybe I would say. Again, I'm not one for retconning my own scores, so my score will stand as it was. But again, like I said, if I had to do over again, and again, like I said, it was really weird because it was like in my brain I could tell that this was a better film than I was giving it credit for, and it just sort of goes to show like what your experience when you're viewing it can do, because it's like if your experience watching it is not, if it's less than stellar, you're gonna notice the things that are wrong with it. If you are just overjoyed with it, you'll ignore the things that are wrong, and again, I still say that the things that I knocked it for still stand. I mean, the Hulk thing I still say is weird. The tech, the Iron Man tech is definitely getting strange. In fact, I was watching something about clips of the first Iron Man when they show him in the big mechanism that helps him put the suit on and off. And I was like, again, it was stuff like that made it very believable. And now we're sort of getting very cartoonish, levels of making the suit do this and do that or whatever. So I still stand by what I said. I mean, there's really not much I would say that I would take away. Just that having been able to watch it in a much clearer frame of mind, I was able to absorb everything. I did not feel as overwhelmed by the action as I said I did the first time around. And everything was firing on all cylinders. And I really did just kind of marvel at just how everything did come together. It all came together exactly how you hoped it would, and the characters interacting with other characters, the different kinds of chemistry worked, and I mean, it is tremendous. It is tremendous. So I will say, I mean, it's not perfect. It's not above any reproach at all. But I'm eating big time crow and just saying I absolutely loved it the second time. And I if it was playing, if I had a ticket to see it again tomorrow, I'd go again. I mean, it's that good. So
experience definitely makes a difference. Being on the right-hand side of the screen in the front row, you're not going to catch everything. And I felt bad on my opening night when I went and I saw people that close to the screen. I'm like, oh, God, guys, that just sucks. Because when the final trailer was released, it was also when the tickets went on sale, and I immediately got tickets for myself and my family. Mm-hmm. So luckily where I live, we can reserve seats. So I literally had the perfect seats that I wanted.
Yeah.
Exact center of the theater, exactly where I wanted it to be. Yeah. So our experience was much, much better than yours.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that you were on the right-hand side of the screen. No wonder. That explains tons.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I didn't even want to throw it out there because I didn't want to make excuses for anything. I just wanted, I was trying to just sort of focus on the film. But yeah, that does make a difference. It was to the point where I was debating on skipping this because they were showing it every hour on the hour, basically. I was debating just, what, maybe we should just hold back and get the best seats in an hour, like in the next showing. But again, mm-hmm. I got little kids with me, and I can't do that. So again, just little bad planning. I've had bad seats in theaters before, where I kind of just sort of forgot about it after a while. So I was sort of just hoping that I would just kind of forget that the seats were so terrible. But yeah, this was a hard one for that kind of a thing.
It's definitely a movie you have to sit back and watch to truly get.
Yeah, I mean, you need to see the whole screen. You need to see everything that's going on.
100%. So. Well, I'm glad you got another chance to see it, sir. I'm hoping to get a chance to see it again myself. Excited to see it again. Every day there's like another friend of mine that's like, hey, I've finally seen it. Let's talk about it. And I have to go through the whole thing again. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. I know. I mean, and it is absolutely spectacular. I mean, it really is amazing. Just, I mean, I heard somebody reviewing it saying something like, this is the kind of movie where you should be defending it the way you would defend like maybe a Justice League and say, well, of course it wasn't going to be perfect, and of course expectations were way too high to match expectations, and that's a lot of strings to try to line up together. Nope, we're not defending anything. I mean, this thing worked. They did it.
Yep. 100%. And you know what? Credit to you, sir. Credit to you to be able to look back on something and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I was a bit harsh. That's a sign of a true bro, man. That's a true bro.
I'll take that.
So, how long have you been Ant-Man again?
Not long. It just sort of happened.
I wish I could fight bad guys like you.
I seem to mess it up almost every time.
Maybe you just need someone watching your back.
So the Ant-Man trailer, what did you think?
After the dourness of the Infinity War movie, I was quite pleased, frankly. It was nice to have a nice light adventure as opposed to the what the hell did I just watch, which was Infinity War, great as it was. I thought it was great. I think it was a nice little way of showing, that they're still advancing the plot along from the first movie when they're talking about the quantum dimension, how it's brought about a new piece of tech. I'm curious about the Ghost character. I like the Ghost character from the comic. Seeing Luis back just brought a smile to my face because, God darn it, that freaking guy is awesome. I had a laugh, and after, like I said, after the dourness of Infinity War, it was a nice change of pace. Although I have my suspicions as to how Ant-Man is going to end, I don't think it's going to be a happy ending.
I wondered the same thing. I wondered if we're going to get a post-credits that's going to be a little dour, like the other one.
Oh yeah. My money is that it ends with Hank Pym becoming dust in the wind.
Very possibly, or at least somebody.
Somebody from the Ant-Man farm definitely has to become dust in the wind. That's happening.
Yeah.
But what about you?
I thought it looked pretty fun. Like you said, it was nice to sort of get back to just kind of a fun, pretty self-contained romp, and everything about it looked pretty interesting. Again, I liked the first one very much. The gimmicks and things that you see them doing in this one looks pretty funny. It's very, it's interesting that they know enough that this character lends itself to funnier moments than, more serious or more, they know enough to sort of run with the levity of certain things. So again, watching the giant Pez dispenser come flying at somebody is, like they really have their finger on the pulse of these films. They know the right tone to go for. So, it'll be nice to sort of end out the year with another. It's nice to know there's another Marvel film, and it's not, as much as we love the big, epic, showdowns, and I think it'll be nice to just have a nice little light one to sort of end this one off on. And, hey, possibly we'll see. We are short on Avengers now, so there's going to be a little bit of a campaign drive,
Yeah, you think?
So maybe this will lead into that one more.
Yeah. It was excellent. I had a lot of fun watching it, and yeah, very much looking forward to it.
I heard you beat up a bunch of teenagers.
I didn't beat up any teenagers. I kicked the crap out of a bunch of assholes who deserved it.
Thinks he could bring Cobra Kai back to the valley? Yeah. Not on my watch.
Get him a body bag!
Cobra Kai. Hey, first of all, I want to shout out to Tim Ferrara, who wrote a letter asking if we were going to review this. He knew that we brought it up, and he asked if we were going to review it. And, Tim, here you go. Yeah, Cobra Kai. Well, first off, I'll just come right out and say it. I enjoyed the hell out of this thing. And I mean, seriously, you want to talk about mixed feelings last week? I was enjoying the hell out of this, and I couldn't wait to review it and talk about it after giving Infinity War a low mark. And I'm waiting for someone to go like, "Really? You spent last week trashing Infinity Wars, and you're gonna rave about Cobra Kai?" Like, all right,
you didn't trash it though.
No, I really didn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, this was a lot of fun, and the fun part about it is, first of all, if you've seen any of the commercials, you know that it's kind of got like sort of a built-in cheese factor, and there was a corniness that went with the original films, frankly, and they kind of just keep that going with this. There's a very corny feeling to it, but in a good way. The people who wrote this were absolutely fans of the films.
100%.
They had references to things that I had completely forgot about, or just really doubted they were ever going to talk about. In fact, I was getting a funny vibe from the trailers that this was going to be one of those situations where they're going to do a sequel to the first film alone and forget that anything else had happened, but that was not the case at all. They really did sort of keep the rest kind of in mind as they were doing this, which was nice. So yeah, I mean, it was corny, and I found myself laughing at times when I was thinking to myself that I probably shouldn't be laughing. Johnny, the character Johnny, is hysterical. He's not only is he still stuck in the 80s, he's a very non-PC, so the stuff that comes out of his mouth is kind of funny, and you're kind of uncomfortable laughing, but laughing nonetheless. What's really funny about this is that, especially the first episode, it is, and really the whole series, is frankly more from Johnny's point of view than Daniel's. It totally played off as like, this is sort of Johnny's story. And, it is like he kind of stumbles back into Daniel's world, not the other way around. And, I mean, it does sort of balance out where, you do see both sides of everything. But from the get-go, I mean, it really does start out as Johnny's story. Again, what starts out as something that is kind of just sort of simple, and you figure it's going to be kind of simple and dumb. The two meet up again, bump heads, and who knows, maybe they're gonna fight or not. It's really not about that. And as things progress, there's a lot of layers that start to happen. The different things start to happen, and it sort of goes down different roads than I was expecting. It went from a funny little nostalgia fest to something that was actually starting to work and was fairly well written. And it's about family, and it's about, I guess, revisiting and dealing with your past or whatever, and how you're going to deal with things as an adult. It was, I really, like I said, I was shocked how much I liked it. I ended up binging this in one night. Cobra Kai, very cool. I definitely recommend checking it out. If you were a fan of the originals, you'll get a big kick out of these. Again, it's not high art. We're not taking this to an epic level of seriousness or anything. But if you like the first ones, you'll absolutely get a kick out of these. And they, by the way, left it very wide open for a possible sequel, for another season. So,
well, just so everybody knows, the first 2 episodes are available free. You don't have to actually subscribe to see them. I got to watch the first 2 episodes, and I was enjoying what I saw, and I am seriously considering. There's actually like a 14-day trial that I can get. I might just do that.
Yeah, I think that there's you can cancel after the first month or something or other.
Yeah, I might just do that just to watch the remaining episodes. But yes, I'm agreeing with you. I kind of went in with like this queer expression of, I don't know if this is going to work. And just the little that they had really did work. And, you got to, if anything, you always knew Ralph Macchio was a good actor. But, William Zabka, this is like his first lead, I think. When has he ever played the lead? He's always played like second fiddle or the heavy.
Pretty much, yeah. And you're
awesome.
Right. I would call him the lead in this. Yeah. I completely agree with you. And it's funny too, because Ralph Macchio is a good actor, but he kind of had that sort of just Ralph Macchio, like even when he was younger, like he was all skin and bones, right? And the arms were always kind of dangling around, bopping around, whatever. He's still like that, like he's still doing it. And it was funny, like even as I'm watching the commercials when he's doing he's got his car dealership, so he's like, we chop the prices, and he karate chops, chop, chop, chop. And I was like, and as you watch this, you kind of go for a second like, oh my god, are they serious? But then when you realize, but that's I could see him doing that. Like that would be again, he wasn't really a cool kid. He was a bit of a nerd,
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I could totally see him being a little kind of like awkward and thinking this is still pretty cool or whatever. Giving away bonsai trees with everybody, like, oh my god, like
with every purchase.
Again, like some of it was like eye rolling, but again, you said to yourself, but this is what that film was. This is what that series was. This is the guy who gave the mac and cheese 11, and the and the whole audience was like, oh, okay, like this was like again, he was a goober, So this is again, I kind of found this to be very faithful in its writing.
I enjoyed what I saw, and I am going to watch the rest of it. And from Joe's recommendation, seems like everybody else should as well.
The man is a myth, a legend. He used to carry this guitar. Believe me, he really knew how to play it. And if he's still living, he's the one you want.
Hitman El Mariachi becomes involved in international espionage involving a psychotic CIA agent and a corrupt Mexican general. Written by Robert Rodriguez, shot, chopped, and composed by Robert Rodriguez, catering by Robert Rodriguez, directed by Robert Rodriguez. Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Desperado meets Sicario. Does it work?
Yeah, you know what? That's actually an apt way of looking at it. It's kind of funny because as I was watching it, it's like, wow, there's actually like an undercurrent of like a really serious plot here that kind of almost cuts itself in half the minute it starts in with the cartoon violence. Yeah, it really does. It's got identity problems. It doesn't know what it wants to be, and I almost get the impression sometimes when he heard the titles like Once Upon a Time in America, Once Upon a Time in the West, he was like, you know what? If I did Once Upon a Time in Mexico and I could really make this a little more realistic, a little more epic, a little more this, I think he really thought he had something great on his hands. But yeah,
it does sort of struggle with its own identity, doesn't it?
Yeah. When I was done watching it, when the closing credits was going on, it's like, fun movie. But the first thing I thought to myself was, I got to wonder what this movie would have been if El Mariachi wasn't part of it. Like, if it was just a political espionage thriller set in a Mexican cartel president, type thing. Like, take the Antonio Banderas character out and just flesh the rest of it out. I kind of wondered to myself what it would have been. Could it have been Robert Rodriguez's Sicario?
Yeah. Good question. I'm going to say no. I get the vibe that it wanted to sort of dabble in what it saw as more serious issues and more serious. If you were really going up against the drug cartels, what would your life be like? Well, you'd like I said, you look at a movie like Sicario or any other film dealing with Mexican drug cartels. It's not pretty, so they were like, okay, should we delve into that? And well, they do. But yeah, the overall effect is kind of lukewarm at best, I find. There's a lot of little subplots happening. I mean, the cast is pretty sweet.
Pretty solid cast, actually.
Yeah, and there's a lot of little subplots happening. And I find that none of them really sort of reach a satisfactory or a satisfying conclusion.
That was kind of one of my problems, yeah.
I mean, they all end, and some a little more than others, I guess, have satisfying end. Well, actually, no, I take it back. None of them have very satisfying endings, but at least there are some ends that wrap up. Okay, fine, it wraps itself up. But yeah, a lot of it's a little strange, and a lot of it I don't know what to do with.
Yeah, and a part of me wonders if Rodriguez knew what to do with it. It's a hard movie to review because, on the one hand, as always, it's deftly directed. It's deftly shot. It's wonderfully edited. The music, is tremendous, and everybody is trying their damnedest. But there are just moments in there that's just like, they have this one scene where they introduce Eva Mendes's character. And there she is. She's trying to volunteer for an assignment, and they keep passing her over. Relatively typical. But the next time we see her, she goes from being this, this poor woman. All she wants to do is, try to make a difference, blah blah blah. To boom, Johnny Depp's breaking into a room. It's like, right. There's a weird transition.
Totally, yeah, and again, like, what is her arc? What is her story? Nothing. I mean, you can count her scenes on one hand. You're right. There she's in the classroom. Then she meets him later. And then she's hanging out with, he's my father all along. But so what? Yeah. Plot twist. He's the bad guy's my father. So I'm a bad guy too. And then there's the end when after Johnny Depp has had his eyes dug out, he's in this, basically just like laying in the street, half dead. She comes out. And he shoots her, and it's almost like, but so what? Like we knew nothing about these people. This was a way, there was like tiny little hints of something, but we don't know anything about either of them, frankly. And the Johnny Depp character again, frankly, how he doesn't have top billing in this film, I don't know, because
he was awesome. Oh no, I'm saying it. He was freaking awesome in this movie. Well, I don't care.
Let's put it this way. If you're a Johnny Depp fan, you'll be very happy with him in this film. I frankly kind of find him hard to. I mean, and when Johnny Depp first came out, and I always respected the fact that he always took these sort of offbeat roles. Like, I mean, this was a guy who was in 21 Jump Street, right? And he was like the quintessential, like, late 80s, early 90s, good-looking guy, and all the girls thought he was good-looking and everything. And then he made the move to film from television. And instead of going for a lot of films that were, that he would be the handsome, leading guy, he went for the goofy parts, like the Edward Scissorhands and stuff like that. And I always thought, okay, so he wants to be an actor, not a pretty boy. I can respect that. But after a while, I don't know, I guess he started to really kind of grate on me after a while. And even the parts like this that are relatively, again, I'm not, like, this is not him doing Mordecai. This is him relatively straightforward and not trying to act like a goober. I just don't find him to be good enough to carry a film. And again, he's more or less carrying this film because he's got way more screen time than the mariachi as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Now, I don't think that's as far as you're concerned. I think somebody timed it out. I'd have to look it up. But, he did. He got more screen time than the mariachi.
And the fact that Salma Hayek is second on the marquee, I think is... I don't know if that was a bait and switch, meaning like, let's put her second high so people will be surprised to find out that she was killed. Or was it just kind of poor marketing? I don't know. I kind of found that to be a little strange. I mean, she's got like 2 or 3 scenes in this film, and they're all flashbacks.
I don't know. Maybe this is the Robert Rodriguez contractual obligation movie. I couldn't tell you because it didn't really feel like it. I mean, of course the action sequences did feel like him, but everything else about this just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like the depth that he tried to put into this plot didn't feel like him. Now I appreciate somebody who wants to stretch themselves. Absolutely. You want to try something new, you want to try something different. Hey, I will absolutely positively watch that, especially if you're a director I admire. Mm-hmm. But it didn't work. He shortchanged both sides of the equation. He shortchanged the mariachi character by having this other half of a plot with, this political intrigue and so on and so forth. And then he shortchanged that plot because he had to fit in the El Mariachi plot. Mm. This is, I won't say it's, no, I'm going to say it. This is kind of, compared to the first 2 movies, this one's a disappointment. Yeah. I watched it, and it's funny, I was even saying when the last time we spoke about this, that, it's been years. I don't remember watching it a second time. And we did. I'm pretty sure we watched it at least one additional time, but it never made my rotation.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know you're talking about it. And I remember when I had a lot of high hopes when this was coming out, too, because... Again, I was watching it, and I'm watching the trailers, and I'm saying to myself, on paper, it sounds really good. Because, again, if you're a fan of the first 2, and it's like him trying to be a little more epic and do more with this story to bring it to a conclusion, I had high hopes. But, yeah, I walked out kind of feeling like, it's... First of all, you can't really mix those two. You can't mix... comic book cartoon violence with real violence. Because, I mean, again, it's almost like, to watch the mariachi, like, standing in the middle of, like, a market square, surrounded by 20 guys, all firing on him, and, of course, they can't hit him. That's, okay, that's fine, on one hand, but then don't come later to the hospital where we're going to gun, if you're a nurse in a hospital, blip, you're going to get gunned down in cold blood, because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. That cynical coldness doesn't work against the other one.
Yeah, it was way too much all over the place with what it was trying to tell. And if you think about it, who do we have to cheer for? I mean,
yeah, who's the hero of this film?
Yeah, there's really no main protagonist. The mariachi, I guess, is supposed to be the protagonist, but then as the movie goes along, they do the thing where the Sands character, Johnny Depp's character, he loses his eyes, and now he's walking around with these sunglasses, and the blood's dripping out of his eyes with this little kid helping him and everything like that.
It was very fake looking, by the way.
Pardon me?
Which is very fake looking. The painted blood coming down, like, stayed in that spot for the rest of the... I thought it looked a little big-eyed.
Yeah, it was definitely, that was almost like an anime move. That's like something you'd seen in anime, which kind of makes sense with him being Battle Alita later on. But,
right.
Yeah, no, and then all of a sudden it's like now we're supposed to are we supposed to sympathize with this character? Is that what's supposed to happen here?
Right, exactly. Like he was a snake the entire time, like the worst kind of a snake the entire time.
Right.
There was nothing about him that was likable. So now suddenly we're supposed to be on his side because simply because he's got no eyes. Yeah, I mean, even that, and again, it's frustrating when every scene sort of changes certain rules, by the way, just to incorporate the new development. He comes out, he's got no eyes, right? And the kid is with him. And the 2 guys come out across the way, and it's like, okay, here it is. Like, this is the big showdown. Well, it's only a showdown because now it's going to be the slowest shootout in history where the 2 guys are going to walk out and stop. He takes a couple pop, shoots, around them. They don't fire back. They just kind of chuckle at the fact that he can't hit them. And then he hears the laughing. So he takes out one guy. And the other guy is still very slow to do anything. But he shoots. But then he shoots Johnny Depp or whatever. But not enough that he's still. I mean, again, it just like this takes forever just because we're gonna give Johnny Depp's character a fighting chance. And it was like, all right, whatever. But again, as you're watching, you're like, why do I care about this? Why do I care if he gets killed? Kill him. I don't care. Like,
yeah, at this point, it kind of would have been like, he did. I enjoyed his performance. Don't get me wrong. At the time when it came out, it was a nice little smarmy little character. He hadn't done anything like that. He had done the weird stuff, but this was different to me, and it was one of the reasons why I liked it, and I found it charming.
Yeah.
And am I the biggest Johnny Depp fan? No, I'm not saying I'm the biggest Johnny Depp fan, but
it was good for a chuckle. It was.
Yeah, I found it worked here. I also come to find out later on that supposedly, like, Depp loved working on this movie so much that he kept asking for more and kept asking for more. So supposedly Robert Rodriguez kept adding more scenes of Sands.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of wonder if that's why we had the quote-unquote Sands redemption at the end, because he was trying to, give more to Johnny Depp and take this movie away from Antonio Banderas.
He's wanted by the FBI.
He wanted to disappear.
I didn't think you'd ever come back for this thing.
Neither did I. But just when they thought he was gone for good,
L has come out of hiding.
He's back for revenge.
There's a price on your head. I'm going to collect.
And I guess I have no choice but to kill you all.
By the time Sands is out there with no eyes and he's kind of just on his own, it does sort of feel like he has no part of the story anymore. So it's like if you just put him in a taxi and send him home, what's the difference anyway? Him having the shootouts with 2 or 3 people didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, the story is supposed to be, the coup d'etat and this whole other thing, but but that whole thing doesn't really work for me either. I mean, the whole story was supposed to be there's going to be a coup d'etat to take out the president. I'll tell you something I like about this film is that I do find the film to be a little more pro-Mexico. Like, I sort of felt like when I was watching Desperado, I remember thinking to myself that there really should have been a lot more Spanish. You know what I mean? Like, I know that this is for American audiences, and I know we're too dumb to read subtitles or whatever. But honestly, I kind of felt like you should have kept it a little more authentic. And here I thought, not only did they keep it more authentic, there is much more Spanish in this film, but you also do sort of get a pro-Mexico feel from it. Like, if I'm a Mexican, I would feel like I'd be a little more inspired by the idea that, the president is essentially a good guy. At the end, the private citizens rise up to defend the president, I think.
Yes, that was definitely what they were trying to say.
Yeah. Now, again, they have to be they decided to be pretty anti-American to do this, which I kind of didn't get. And again, if you're not on board with that idea, like, here's Sands saying, my job is to make sure that Mexico stays a rotten shithole because we can't let it get too big for the britches or else somehow it affects us, which I find to be wildly counterintuitive to reality, but whatever. But there's Sands. I have to balance out by whatever. All right, so the coup d'etat, they want it to happen, but then they want to take out the guys doing the coup d'etat right after that, so that basically you have chaos, I suppose, and you're going to let the cartel stay in power, I think. I wasn't sure who I couldn't.
The plan wasn't clear.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how the cartel and the general, like I don't know, like I wasn't sure who was working for who. I guess the corrupt general, who was the guy who kills Salma Hayek or whatever. Marquez. He works for the cartels, I guess. So he was gonna.
Yeah, I that wasn't really clear.
It wasn't clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was assuming that was it because, again, I mean, El Mariachi's character goes after the drug dealers, so now he's going to come up against this corrupt general. Okay. But yeah, you're right. But it was very unclear, and I kind of, again, I'm not really understanding who I'm not understanding who's doing what and why, and who's who gains what from what. There was a moment where the part when El Mariachi says to the other two guys, and by the way, I'll talk about that, but there's a moment where he's talking to the other two guys and he says, the president is a good man. I thought there was for a moment there that the film was going to get back on track and start to sort of find its way again, and we were going to, okay, now I get why we're here. Now I get what we're fighting for. And this was good because it was a segue against what the Mariachi was sort of hired to do or asked to do. He was brought in just to take out the general whose name I keep forgetting.
Marquez.
Yeah, I mean, he's there to take out Marquez, which he's happy to do because Marquez is the one who killed his wife and his daughter. So we had a little revenge story going on in the background there. But he didn't want it. He didn't want the president to be taken out either because, again, he said the president's a good man and we're sons of Mexico. I like that. So that part of it I was kind of getting into, and I was starting to feel like, all right, I like that part. But again, it was such an afterthought.
But that was
in
like the last 10 minutes of the movie,
right? It was an afterthought at that point. So yeah, it was hard to really get into much about the story. Frankly, there was not like every time you would sort of follow down one little trail, it really just sort of felt like filler until you got back to another part. There was so many things happening at the same time. The whole Ruben Blades character getting brought in, I didn't understand what that was about. Like, Sands finds him. He's an ex-agent. Why he's still hanging around in Mexico if he doesn't need to be there, I'm not really understanding, unless he is, I don't know. But he kind of tricks him or lures him back into the action to hopefully take out the drug kingpin. But why does he want him out too? I'm not sure what's happening there. And at the end of the day,
the reason why Sands brought him in, that part I don't know. But the doctor that did the facial surgery on the drug kingpin tortured his partner to death,
right, under
the orders of the head of the cartel, played by Willem Dafoe.
Who escapes, by the way, I think. Who basically escapes unharmed.
No, he dies.
The doctor?
Both of them died.
I thought that... Well, maybe I'm thinking... Okay.
No, he got them both in the end. He got them both in the
final
end.
shot was the two of them, right?
Yeah, the two of them were in the room yelling for El Presidente.
There was another surgeon that runs out of the hospital at one point and jumps into a car and just vanishes. And I don't think you see him again.
Well, no, that you see him again. He's
that
with
is the same guy.
Yeah, it's the same guy.
Okay.
It was just but again, that's one of those rare cases with Rodriguez of bad editing because it makes it seem like he's going off into the sunset.
Right.
The idea was supposed to be, of course, that you see he wasn't being chased. This was all part of the plan, but it gave the wrong impression.
Yeah. Okay.
It makes it very difficult to really enjoy the movie when it goes through this almost dichotomous relationship with itself, whereas one moment it's like dour and serious, like the best of the dour and serious DC films, and then the next minute it's all happy and light, like a freaking Deadpool cartoon,
right? Just running around shooting. I mean, I will say this. I mean, the action scenes are still pretty good. It's funny. I mean, again, I'm watching a lot of scenes, and we talked about the opening shot of Desperado, where it's the guy telling the story, so he's embellishing. So they kind of played on that a little bit in this as well, which I liked. And and then of course I thought it was kind of interesting that they sort of bring Salma Hayek into the fold, where now she throws the knives and everything. But then again, I'm saying to myself, like, is that really how it was, or is this just part of the embellishment that he's talking about? But then there were other scenes where, again, every time he shoots, boom, the guy goes flying, 20 feet away, and so
Marquez's kneecaps get blown off.
Yeah, that was I like that when I saw it, but I don't think that really let. I'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, the action was decent, but I kind of felt like there wasn't a lot of super duper action-y moments that you can really sort of look back on and go, oh, that one was a really great scene, or that was a really great scene. I mean, there's moments of I mean, there's a couple good lines too. I mean, I liked a lot of the dialogue in it, but again, it doesn't really stack up.
No, it really, it kind of falls in on itself. because of its inconsistency. It doesn't really get itself almost sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? It has something that it wants to say, but it's not 100% sure how to say it.
Yeah.
And it's trying to be something a little bit different, but then it falls back on its, oh, hey, look, remember this? This is, El Mariachi. Yeah, that's what we're doing here. Yeah.
Well, that's, and that's the thing, too, by the way. I also find it funny that, like we kept saying, Desperado sort of straddles this line between being a remake and a sequel.
Yeah.
I'm watching this, and there's so many things that it's almost like now it's paying so much homage to itself that, again, it's starting to feel like remake in certain parts. Like,
yeah,
the fact that he's got 2 sidekicks now with guitar cases that now also do tricks. I'm saying to myself, really?
In every movie, that's right. And of course these men are like, oh, I've known these people for so many years, and it's like, how the frick long?
Right. The other one, right. He only killed his other 2 partners a couple of years ago, so how long could you have known each other? Yeah, it was a little weird. And again, it's like they're sort of doing the same thing. They're kind of the singers / gunfighters. How often does that need arise? I need somebody who can play music and shoot guns.
Yeah. It's like, do you is there like a Craigslist section for that or something like that?
Seriously.
Excuse me, let's take a look here.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're familiar with RPGs, but can you play, what was that song the Presidente wanted him to play?
I have no idea.
But yeah, no, it became difficult to really enjoy after a while, and I don't want to say, God, I'm going to say it anyway. By the time the movie was coming to an end, I was like, just end, just please end. And I felt horrified for even thinking that. I felt horrified for even thinking that. That's like, how does that happen in a movie like this? How did he do this to me? What happened, Robert Rodriguez?
Yeah, I think, from what I heard too, I think he pretty much rushed this screenplay. Like I was watching one, like a making of, they were talking to Antonio Banderas, and he apparently got the call and said, "Hey, we're gonna start filming in 3 weeks. Are you free?" And he's like, "Well, show me the script." He's like, "Oh, well, the script's not done yet." So apparently, this was a very rushed sort of a thing. But yeah,
it explains a lot.
Yeah. Incidentally, another speaking of how this. It homages itself so much that it looks like it's there's a kid in a yellow shirt in every film, by the way. Like again, when I saw him show up, I'm like, are you the same little fat kid who plays the guitar? And one of the things I did like, by the way, I wasn't crazy about the whole scene in general because I kind of felt like it was a little forced, but the part where they do the gimmick where they wake up. First of all, why is he waking up in bed with chains on his arm, chaining him to Salma Hayek?
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Like, did somebody sneak in and put chains on them and sneak back out again? I didn't understand what that was supposed to be. Why is he waking up and he's in shock? Like he's surprised. So it's like, well, how seriously, did someone sneak in and put these on you? So yeah, but then they do the thing where they're going out the window and kind of doing like the little sort of a trapeze act down to scale down. Okay, I like, again, on paper I guess it makes sense, but then again, guns are firing at these people the entire time this is going on. Like, come on. I mean, you can only make people so bulletproof. But I did sort of like, the one thing I did like was which I assumed was an homage to the first one, where they go down the wire and end up on the front of the bus, and the bus looks almost exactly the same.
For all we know, it might have been the same bus. Who the hell knows with him? But no, honestly, as I was watching that, I was like, okay. So let me see if I'm getting this straight. Let me see if I'm getting this straight. Marquez is after them because he loved Carolina. At least that's the way the story went. So they found him, and they chained him together, and then left. What? and then came back with an army to take them out?
Right.
I mean, you had him right there, dead to rights. Bang, bang.
I mean,
I feel like there's more of a story there. I feel like there's a story that like maybe Marquez says, find them, but don't touch them. Find them, incapacitate them until I get there. I feel like that's the missing piece of the story. Because Marquez wanted to kill them personally. I can see that, but they didn't explain that at all.
I commend you for that was a very diplomatic solution to that problem. But again, it doesn't. I mean, that would be like a 1960s Batman kind of a problem.
I don't know either, man. I kind of felt like at that point that it was just like, hey, look what we can do now. This is what we could do now with these special effects. Similar scene, like from the first one, but different.
Well, from what I heard, that was something that he wanted to do in Desperado, just never, they couldn't do it for whatever reason. So they decided when this came along, we'll do this, we'll do it here, and it sticks out like a sore thumb because again, this is nothing but a flashback. So it's a flashback to an action moment, like okay, it didn't really make any sense, frankly. He just did it as a filler action scene that he thought was kind of clever. All right, fine. But, whatever. It just...
that felt like the dream sequences from the first El Mariachi. Completely unnecessary.
Once upon a time in Mexico.
Well, Joe, we've hit the mark.
Are we there? Oh, boy.
Oh, we're there.
I didn't have the heart to give it a 5, so I gave it a 6. It's really... I said to myself, like, would I recommend this to anybody to watch? I mean, like, would I want to watch it again right now? No. Honestly, as I was rewatching it, I said to myself, well, yeah, I forgot how slow this was, and I remember having a hard time really kind of getting into it. The first two, I got into it no problem. And this one I'm watching again, hadn't seen it in ages, and yeah, it sure is slow going, and not a lot of it makes a lot of sense, and I can't remember who's who and who's got what, and I mean, I should know the plot by now because I've seen it, but so yeah, I mean, there's not, I wouldn't say it's bad because again, it's a good looking film. The score, as always, is pretty spot on. I noticed that his music choices in here are still great, and I think they're a little more creative, frankly, than just the sort of like badassery of his like last soundtrack. I like the music in this. I thought it was pretty good. Visually, it works. I mean, he's definitely sort of honed his craft. I like the shootouts in the church, for example. I remember seeing things about how they, apparently they couldn't get the guns that would shoot blanks. They couldn't get them over customs, so they just had to do everything in post. To the point where they had to get Antonio to stop going like with his mouth when he's like stop. We'll put it all in later. So I mean, it's a good looking film. It's a good looking film. It's not bad. The cast is good. Thank God it's got a good cast. If the cast was not good, then a lot of these scenes that are already pretty slow moving and pretty clunky would be really painful to watch if you didn't have a pretty good actor in that part. And that's it. That's the best I got. Like I said, it just borders on unwatchable, frankly, and I'm gonna give it a 6.
Funny enough, that's the exact score that I gave it, my man. I kind of felt the same exact way.
Yeah.
I wanted to really like this movie, and I did. It's fine. It's not how I would have ended this type of trilogy. And a part of me really wants to see Rodriguez try to branch out and try to do something, different, more character-driven, more espionage-driven, because I kind of feel like maybe he could pull something like that off. I liked the idea of what he wanted to do. It's the execution that didn't work. It got bogged down in something. His admiration for Johnny Depp, his lack of time with Antonio Banderas, the lack of time with Salma Hayek, who from what I understand was also busy around that time and didn't have a lot of time, and that's why her part was shorter. I don't know. I'm not sure what went wrong here, but it doesn't fit. It didn't fit as a story. It didn't fit in the Mariachi trilogy. Even by the time he's pulling out the remote control frickin' bass or, whatever the type of guitar that was and firing it at the truck with the frickin' cannon. I was like, oh, well, there you go. Had to throw that one in, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. I realize now why I haven't watched it in as much time as I have. Because it just was very middling and, not Rodriguez's best effort. Now, granted, Rodriguez has done worse since Shark Boy, Lava Girl. Sorry, something stuck in my throat. Yeah, not his best work.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you hit it on the head, and it's hard to really even put your finger on what's missing in this film. Take out a couple superfluous characters. I mean, there's people in here that don't. I mean, seriously, even the drug kingpin himself, that whole thing where he goes to get his plastic surgery. What's the point of that in this film? He runs around with the bandages on, I guess, to look a little scarier. But I mean, that doesn't amount to anything.
Or maybe Willem Dafoe wasn't available, and they just had to use an actor, and he did voiceover.
Maybe, who knows? Yeah, I mean, it really does seem a little strange. So again, I almost felt like, what was the point of that? There's a lot of things that are just sort of thrown into this little stew to see if something sticks, and you get characters with very little to do at the expense of other characters who we might have explored more. So yeah, it's really middling is the perfect word for it. It doesn't really, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do very much, and I agree with you. I kind of thought maybe this was going to be the one that was really going to put him, Rodriguez, over the top, and this is the kind of stuff we can. I mean, again, I feel like deep down there was a great director in there, but then again, he's kind of got that Kevin Smith disease where I think he's a little more fun to work with. Like he's the director that he wants that he wants to be liked, and just kind of let's have fun on the set. And you want to try that? Sure, let's try that. As opposed to committing to a particular vision and sticking with it and fighting for it. And again, there's not saying that's bad necessarily. I mean, you can get good stuff, and you can get good work when you've got people having fun on the set or whatever. But again. This could have been something pretty spectacular, but yeah, not this time.
No, sir, not this time. Well, how about I ask who first?
Okay.
What do you say to that? So who asked me? Pick a tone.
Yeah.
The underlying story felt pretty good, but its seriousness was completely undercut by the cartoon violent moments. Just when you would think, okay, he's really got a statement here that he's trying to say, and so on and so forth, and everything like that, and then the next thing you know, freaking Antonio Banderas is jumping off the top of a church, firing as he goes down, landing on his feet in that cool superhero pose, and then going back into the shooting. This old lady stops praying and walks, and everybody kind of quietly just stops shooting while she goes and everything like that. I mean, seriously, pick a tone. Yeah. Yes. I liked the cartoon stuff, but I was kind of interested in where the underlying story that you were trying to tell was going. Because you mixed the two, neither one went anywhere.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. My Who Asked You sort of follows in that same vein, from the school of let's pick a tone and stick with it. That shot of him blowing out the guy's kneecaps. Loved it when I first saw it. But looking back on it, I'm like, you know what? No. Well, first of all, again, depending on who you are, guns do wildly different things. If you're the hero, you can have 20 guys standing around you firing point blank, and they can't hit you at all. If you do manage to get hit, for example, if like a Marquez shoots you 3 or 4 times in the stomach and the chest, you'll survive because you're the lead guy. On the other hand, that same gun that would shoot somebody and put a hole in his chest now is going to blow body parts off of you to leave the skeleton in. I mean, I know what they were trying to do. He's supposed to get some pretty sick revenge on this guy for killing his wife and his daughter. I get that. It doesn't mean that a gun is going to do that. I don't care what kind of gun it is. It's not going to leave the skeleton standing there while the rest of your cartilage and everything else is blown off or whatever. So yeah.
Not to mention the fact the guy's legs was pretty wide apart. So I mean that's right. Damn accurate from a shotgun. And then like a second later, he uses that very same shotgun to the guy's head and only gets his little blood splatter on his forehead.
Exactly right. Exactly. I mean, just what?
Such a shame in that way. Well, how about for your consideration, sir?
For my consideration, well, I was going to go with the score. And again, I mean, Rodriguez, you can say what you want about Rodriguez, but he does music very well. His score is terrific, and like you said in the beginning, this is where I was so impressed with the music from this. I used the one song for our opening theme song. So how can I not give it consideration for that? But
And I giggled my little ass off when it started playing in that scene.
there you go, right? But in the end, I changed my mind. For your consideration, I give you the 10-minute cooking school.
It's not even in the movie.
On the DVD, Robert Rodriguez does a 10-minute cooking school, which he sort of added to his usual 10-minute film school, which I thought was pretty damn cool. And I still have not made the dish that he does. For years I've been wanting to, and I swear I had a plan to make that this weekend while we watched it, but I ended up getting sidetracked. Mary and I had to take a little road trip. But yeah, I was going to cook it this weekend for the first time. But anyway, I love the 10-minute cooking school, and I even love how he films it. And I always say to people, even watching how he does that tiny little short gives you some sort of an insight as to how he actually, how he does his filmmaking. I love that, and I want more of it.
I'm not going to fault you for that one. I got to be honest with you. I struggled with a 4-year consideration because of the unevenness of the movie. I mean, I loved all the little character beats. I mean, it's always nice to see Danny Trejo. It's always nice, and the visual effects were fine, and the idea behind it was fine, and the directing was fine, and the editing was fine. I really didn't feel a lot for anything. The flamethrower guitar case, fine. It's hard to really work up a passion. But whenever I think of this movie, and, you can ding me if you want on this, but whenever I think of this movie, I still think of how much fun I had watching Johnny Depp. And I did. Whenever he was on the screen, he was just fun. So, did he screw up the movie? It's possible he may have screwed up the movie, but for the scenes that he was in, he was enjoyable. Even when they were ridiculous, I still found them compelling. Yeah. So, he's my only for your consideration.
And that's fine. Listen, like I said, I mean, I'm not anti Johnny Depp. I just find that he's, I don't enjoy him the way a lot of people do. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And, he was funny and he had some, clever things to say and contribute to this film. And by the way, he also touched on something. Another thing I was going to mention, by the way, the return of Danny Trejo, the return of Cheech Marin. Again, It's like, that's why I say, like, again, he's still sort of dabbling in remake, between remake and sequel. Because it's like we'll do same story beats, the same actors in similar-ish roles. I mean, I almost felt like had Cheech gotten shot in the eye in Desperado, you could have made the argument that he was the same character in this one. And said, "Oh yeah, I survived that. He shot up the whole place, and it would have been a much better story, frankly." He could. I mean, it could have been. Now he's telling the story the way Buscemi did it in the last one. So where in each time it gets a little crazier and crazier. And again, here you have Danny Trejo doing a very similar role, a little more fleshed out, and I shouldn't even say fleshed out, but it's a speaking role, frankly. Whereas
much more speaking.
But again, doing a very similar Hitman-ish kind of a role and not much really different there. So again, it's like, and I've said it before, like Rodriguez he's he's already homaging his own movies to the point where it's like, dude, again, he does sort of tend to be a one-trick pony. And I think I said that in the first one. I said he goes on to do bigger and better, but he really does play his cards close to the vest. He does a lot of what's familiar, and again, it's like he doesn't really want to just completely go off into something new. He'll take what he did and let's build on it in the next one. But again, he's playing with the same blocks again. Like he's just stacking them differently.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, I mean, I great director, and I really do want to give him credit where it's due, but I would love to see him get out there and do something that is, really tremendous. I think Sin City is maybe one of his best, frankly.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. We should definitely get that on the calendar at some point.
Yeah, they are great movies as far as I'm concerned. As far as again, he's another guy who loves to dabble in effects and in what you can do, and that was a really great example of a pretty creative, ingenious way to get a certain look or to bring a certain look onto the screen. You know, and I mean, he really does good there. And again, I'm not, you know, I love this trilogy. I really do. This one is a letdown. But again, I'll always be a big Desperado fan. I'll always be a big Mariachi fan for what that is. That's all I got.
But next week, ladies and gentlemen, Captain Deadpool.
All right. Which means Deadpool 2 is right around the corner.
Yeah, that's right. We got 2 more weeks to some DP.
Wow, that's going to be pretty fun.
Yes, indeed. I'm sorry. I'm giddy. I'm giddy to go over this movie.
Yeah, same here.
Very cool. So in that case, ladies and gentlemen, you have a great night.
Pleasure as always, my friend. I will see you next week.
Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.